Consciousness is becoming more and more transparent. Time and space is becoming more efficient. Because in pure spirit, you don't have a physical identity. You don't have a human identity. The third one allowed me to maintain that space of no identity at all. It's like, do not reference yourself compared to your physical possessions.
Correct.
Because your physical possessions are limited compared to who you are. And then I realized it's like, oh, I'm dead. And then it was sadness for maybe a split second, but then you have so much joy and so much expansiveness at that moment that you don't even think about your physical body anymore. You have a choice, so to speak. You already created that experience of going back.
Yeah, you don't have to pack your bags, get on a train, move forward. There is no time and space.
There is no time and space. So as soon as you think,
you're done.
You're there.
You died the third time. What happened at the mastery level? I'd like to welcome the show, Masati. How you doing, Masati?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me, Alex.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, my friend. Yeah. It's so fun that you just happened to be here in Austin.
Isn't that crazy?
I mean, we started off as a Zoom call.
Yes.
And then I'm like, where are you? I'm like, oh, in Austin. I go, Texas? And like, just drive over. And we're here now. So this, I think, is going to be a better experience.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful place here. And I guess the universe provides, right?
Well, I mean, this has not happened ever. I've never had someone because I always ask people, where are you in the world? Like, I'm just curious where you happen to be zooming in from.
Right.
And when you said Austin, I'm like, that's what? So that's very, usually there's more communication. I don't know how we missed that, but we're here. So
we are here.
So thank you so much for coming, man. You've had an interesting life, to say the least.
Yes.
So I wanted to talk to you a bit about your near-death experience. But before we get into that, what was your life like before you died and came back?
Several times.
Yes, exactly. First time. Let's go to the first one.
First time, yeah.
And then stop dying. Okay.
Yeah, I think this is the last time.
Okay,
3 is enough.
Good.
But, I think the biggest thing is the near deaths that I've had is a conscious near death experience, because there's a lot of near deaths. It's not as unusual as we think it is. There's thousands actually a day, documented near deaths a day. So the big difference with me is that, again, it's a conscious near death where I really wanted to find out the answers of the universe, how this reality works, how life works, how to be truly happy, like intrinsically happy. Because I've looked at a lot of spiritual teachings, a lot of religious teachings, but the people practicing them didn't look all that happy.
Or on the up and up sometimes.
Exactly. So I was like, So, as a young kid, and I'm talking about being like 18, 19, 20, and I looked at the wealth side as well, the success side, and I'm going, gosh, they're not that happy either. They still had the same issues, although they had the money. That they were just more comfortable with their discomfort, I guess you could put it that way. So, and as a young kid, like in my early 20s, I'm wondering is like, gosh, I don't want to grow up to be like them. That generation, and I think as a younger generation, we want to separate, not because we just don't want to turn into all the mistakes of our past. Because we seem to have amnesia, we seem to recreate issues over and over again in the world, and that's what we're seeing here today in the world. So with that being said, I had that thirst or knowledge to want something so badly that, I got it through the first near-death experience, which was a warehouse job.
How old were you?
22.
Okay.
I was 22, warehouse job, going to college, wondering what life is all about, planning out, the next steps. And what happened one day, and it was an ominous day. It's always ominous. It's interesting. All my near deaths have always, that day, it always feels really, really different. Like the air just feels different. The quality of, the essence of, space and time feel really, really different. I was really deeply questioning, my state of being. And I was at work, and I used to unload rail cars for a college job, and the wall it was stuck. The wall in between to keep the products in place, that was stuck. So I offered to climb up and release the wall. It's a half-ton wall, and my teammates were pulling underneath, and then all of a sudden the wall just gave way, and I slid with the wall all the way across, and the wall stopped by my jaw. My jaw got crushed in between. Yeah. So just imagine metal members, roof members, just like, and I was stuck. I was just like hanging, and I could actually see myself, and that was the coolest thing ever, Alex.
Because you're above you, or you're above you, or next to you, or something like that.
Yeah, I was like above and looking at myself. I'm going, that
doesn't look good.
That does not look good at all. But I didn't realize that I was dead,
right?
Which was really crazy. It was like, and then and this is the conscious part. It's like, what am I doing over there if I am over here? And then I realized it's like, oh, I'm dead. And then it was sadness for maybe a split second, but then you have so much joy and so much expansiveness at that moment that you don't even think about your physical body anymore. You don't think about, your loved ones and so on like that, because it's just like, whoa, it's just crazy how beautiful that layer is. And then from there, I ascended into where, I went into a life review. There's, you see the tunnel of light.
So you went through a tunnel?
Yeah, you go through a tunnel of light. It is brilliance. And some people go, well, it's the optic nerve and all that. It really isn't. You're in another consciousness. One, I was out of my body. Two, it's this thing that just consumes you. And you think you're in a tunnel, but in reality, you're really not. It's just a space of just pure possibilities. That's what pure white is about, pure possibilities. There's different layers of possibilities. The first layer, sometimes people go where they go, their loved ones meet them, right? Their dogs, loved ones, whoever's crossed over, they introduce them. I went into the fourth or fifth layer of that, where it was a life review. And that life review, Alex, it wasn't about somebody keeping score where you did this wrong, you did this right, and then they tally up the score, and then you either go to heaven or you go down
to
below to the other place. Yeah, it wasn't like that at all. It was literally reviewing your life as a high level being and looking at it, and it's like, oh, okay, that's why that happened. That's why that happened. That's why this happened. So you start to see it from, say, a college grad level or a PhD level consciousness rather than, a kindergarten level of awakening.
So when you were doing your life review and you get there, is there any other beings guiding you, anything like that? Or is it just you?
You feel presences, but I didn't see anybody.
So Uncle Bob didn't show up?
No.
Okay, so Uncle Bob didn't show up.
Those are at the lower levels.
So Uncle Bob didn't show up, and your spirit guides might be there, but they're not making themselves known. There's someone walking.
There's a presence around you.
Yeah, there's something going on.
Yeah.
From what I've heard, when you have life reviews, they said the closest thing to it is like in the Minority Report, when Tom Cruise is kind of like going through the scenes and there's like videos going in and out. Yeah. They say it's similar to that, but you're able to fly into the moment and feel what happened in that moment. Did that happen to you?
True, yes. So, and that's what, and again, another conscious experience is that I had the life review, and it's not like you're observing your life. You're in the life re-experiencing like 22 years for me.
Sure. In
maybe mere seconds.
But both sides of the experience. So meaning what you were experiencing and maybe what you were doing to somebody else, or no?
Both sides. No, you were reliving yourself
from your point
in
of
that
view.
moment. From my point of view.
Got it.
Reliving everything, but from a very high level state of consciousness.
Almost as an observer looking at like, oh, you were looking at a movie almost, but feeling it.
No, you're in the movie.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So you're in a movie, but you're also observing it. It sounds like, because you're saying PhD level.
Well, you stepped into the moment, and then when you're done reviewing, you step back out.
Okay, so
it's like you're in the ride.
So you jump into the ride, but you're jumping in the ride not like a kindergartner, but as a PhD student.
Yes.
Got
it.
You
and you go through life and you go, oh, that's why this happened. Oh, that's why this happened. So you can't really change what happened because that's written in the sands of time. But the important thing is that you can rewrite the meaning of what happened. Mm-hmm. And that's really key, because that's what I use today to transform, not only my life, but, thousands of others around, where you can change or you can edit what happens to you, you can change the meaning of what's happened to you, what changes your present focus or the possibilities of where you can go into the present moment.
So when you say changing the meaning of it, so if in your life something happened, and in your life, based on your own programming, based on your own experiences, you look at a situation through that lens, but when you're on the other side, the lens is completely clear and you're seeing it from a very high level. So you go, oh, so when I got hit by that car, it was the worst day of my life because I just ruined my brand new car and I'm 16.
Exactly.
When you go back, you go, oh, no, I needed that because if I wouldn't have done that, I would have kept going faster and faster and I would have died.
Absolutely.
Something along those lines.
Yes. Or it's like, oh, okay, I got hit by that car. It offered me, it gave me a near death. It allowed me to awaken much quicker than taking another 20, 30, 40 years or maybe lifetimes to transform.
So it's just changing the perspective on an event.
Changing the perspective. Absolutely. Because it's all about perspective and reference points. And that's the work that I do today. So in that perspective, I understood why things happen the way they do. And literally, it is a teaching experience, but the teaching experience for me was about, oh, we're just all running programs. And that's really the key. It's like, oh, it's a program. It's not like it was my fault or it was their fault or whatever. It's just like you run a program and the outcome is right there for you. It's just that, literally that simple.
So we're going farther and farther back into the matrix, essentially. We're just code.
Absolutely.
We're just code, essentially.
We're just code.
I call us God's algorithm.
It is. It's true. It's the perfect algorithm.
Yeah, we're a little code and we go off and we do our thing and we really don't know where it's going to go, but it's kind of guided in one way, shape, or form.
Yeah. And the coolest thing about, that first near death is like, when you step back out of the ride and, again, still not in my body and I'm going, okay, now how did I just live 22 years in maybe a minute or two? That puzzled me even then. And that, I think that was the teaching experience for me is like, wait, time and space can be edited.
Oh, yeah.
It can be, distorted. It can be edited. It can be manipulated for your benefit.
So, okay, so you're in this life review. You're going through all of this. When that is over,
yes,
what do you do next? What happens next?
There's a deep state of love you have for yourself because you look at the mistakes and you realize that, you aren't the mistakes. You aren't the distortions. You aren't the abuser. You aren't the successes or anything. You are a grand level being experiencing those things. Right? Although you can experience that, who you are is an infinite being, and you know yourself so solidly, and from that you get this immense peace and joy and the brilliance of love that I've never experienced in physical form. Although you're in that state all the time. And then, this consciousness, starts talking to you. It's like, and it's a collective consciousness. So it's not just like one person. It's like many individuals talking through one voice. Right? And it's like, oh, yes, I know you could stay here. It's like, because you have this choice. You can either stay here or you can go back. But as soon as they say...
So it was a voice that said this to you. Okay.
It's a beautiful voice.
Sure.
It's crazy beautiful.
Yeah.
And, sounds and inflections and tones that we can't comprehend.
Is it a voice or was it telepathy, if you will?
More telepathy, but...
You heard the voice
You
in your
heard
head.
the voice at that level.
head.
Because, in that consciousness, you don't have ears,
right?
But for me to understand it,
it
you hear it as a voice. But it's like, yeah, you can stay here if you'd like, but you can always go back. But as soon as they go back, you're just like they push you back into your body. Or as soon as you think of going back, you're probably in your body right away. And that's where I felt the pain of my jaws being crushed.
Right.
I look around and then I pass out.
So there was no talk about, hey, if you go back, there's going to be a lot of pain. Hey, if you go back, you're going to learn. You're going to be teaching people. Hey, there was none of this stuff in this first one. It was just kind of like, hey, you want to stick around or you want to go back? It's up to you.
Exactly.
And what made you choose to come back? Because most people, when they're in that space, they don't want to come back.
Exactly. I didn't want to come back. But I think it's just, again, a teaching experience because that consciousness or you at a higher level conscious know, the outcome or future experiences on what you're provided for or what you're going to be, what you're meant to do. So again, I think at that level, Alex, when you think of something, you become something.
Of course. Yeah.
So as soon as they say, "Oh, go back," it's not like you have a choice, so to speak. You already created that experience of going back.
Yeah, you don't have to pack your bags,
No.
get on a train, move forward. There is no time and space.
There is no time and space. So as soon as you think,
You're done.
you're there. So I think that's where you just like go back in. It's like, whoa, I'm back.
Before we continue, I want to kind of dive into something that just popped into my head. The concept of time and space.
Yes.
What you're talking about is manifestation at a very, very high level. Like,
Yes.
I hate to use the term law of attraction, but manifestation.
Yeah.
Because when you think, it's there.
Yes.
When you're down here, we have that ability.
Yes.
But it's so much muddier and thicker and rougher down here that
True.
it moves slower. So it's kind of like doing something in the air or doing something 40 feet or 1,000 feet below the ocean.
Yeah.
Like, you can do the same thing,
Yes.
but it's slower and harder, and you have to rise your frequency up to a certain level. Like these masters are on the wall here,
Yes.
that they were able to raise their frequency to a level of mastery of this space where they could
Right.
do what they do on the other side, but within the rules of here. Does that any of that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And thank God that you have that time delay. I would call it a time
Can
delay.
you imagine our teenage years?
Oh my God. Yeah, it's like as soon as you think of something, it's like you're there. You've done
For
it.
every
It's like,
teenage boy who's
whoa.
ever been watching this show, can you imagine if you would, whatever you would think it would happen? And when you,
I know.
you have, it would be like a loaded gun constantly.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying.
Very,
Like,
very
oh.
dangerous.
So, although
I love that. Thank
I
you
know.
for bringing that up.
Yeah.
It's so great because
it's good to have a time delay.
It's good to
here.
have a time delay because a lot of times like, oh, I really want to date that person, or I really want that
Like-
person in your life, and you're like, you need a little time to figure this out before you get
Absolutely.
married to this person because it might be the wrong one.
It might be.
But
the
if it's
wrong one.
instant, you don't get that chance.
There's no choice. Yeah. Although, as a lot of my clients, what they start thinking about manifests a lot faster.
Of course.
By the way,
Well, yeah.
because it's clear. But your decisions don't go through all those filters, like all the distortions, the abuse patterns, or whatever of your family lineage, society's patterns, your life experiences. So you've got clear filters, and as you got clear filters, well, time dilation seems to compress, and then you can manifest a lot faster.
You're higher you don't have as much water pressure on you.
Exactly.
You're higher up, so you
You're
can move a
higher
little
up.
faster.
Yeah. So that does happen where things work out a lot faster and a lot more efficient through the space. But again, you need that time delay.
I love that. Thank you for bringing the time delay into it because it's something we definitely need a lot of times.
Absolutely.
Even as adults. Even as
Even
adults.
as adults.
All right. So you've died. You've come back. When you came back, how did you, as a 22-year-old too,
Yeah.
who was a seeker, but yet, I mean, I'm assuming your life wasn't about spirituality and deep thoughts yet. You were curious, but it wasn't like a deep thing yet, or was it?
Well, at 22, you really start to wonder what your life is going to be like.
Sure.
It's like, gosh, what kind of job am I going to have? What kind of, wife and kids and all that stuff. So you start thinking about it. But at that level, a lot of younger individuals go through that process because they want to differentiate themselves from their parents. But then we don't know how to do that, right? So it's like pushing against your parents to go, okay, I love my parents because my parents were really fantastic. Some people don't have great parents. So, but even if you love your parents, you don't want to just like recycle their experiences. So at a very, very deep level, you go, gosh, you know what? If I follow their path, whatever it is, I'm going to go through maybe, a similar path, but have the same bottom line as my parents did. Because that's what we do in this reality, if that makes sense for you, right? We do something different. We do have, we got different technologies today and all that stuff, but the outcome of our lives are the same as previous generations, if you look at it. And it's just cycles over and over again, right?
Right.
So in that case, it's that need or desire of separation.
You have to change the programming.
Yeah,
you don't want to play the
exactly.
same.
Well,
movie.
you don't want to be in the same level of consciousness doing something different because you'll get the same results. Basically,
Makes perfect sense.
That's the way I see it.
So when you came back, I assume you healed up okay.
Absolutely.
As you healed
Everything
up,
was brilliant.
So when you came back, though, did you just start yelling from the top of the hill? Go, hey, guys, I was dead. And I went. I saw this thing called the Life Review. And did you even know what it was called at that point? No. Right? The term hadn't been out there yet. You haven't heard it. So how long did you keep this information in? before you start talking about it? Because this is something that you
It
want to
is.
talk about.
Well, I'm more of a quiet, introspective person.
Fair enough.
So, I speak to a few of my friends, it's like,
Okay.
gosh, you go there and it's like, but it was more like you go inwards. It's the journey inwards. Again, maybe it's my personality of going, gosh, what is that? And you really want to understand it at a
Sure.
very, very deep level. So I didn't, stand on top of the hill and go, hey, guys, I've seen heaven, I've seen God and this and that, and you should come with me. Because I didn't understand the whole concept.
Right.
I wanted to really understand it, apply the concepts, make it more valid, and maybe I didn't feel safe, like sharing all those things. So people go,
what year is this?
well, I was 22, probably in the 80s.
Oh yeah, this is not the time.
It's not
This
the
is
time.
not the time. Nowadays it's different, but
Yeah.
that time was
Yeah.
near-death experiences had just in the 70s been
Exactly.
kind of brought out into the public,
Yep.
and coined the phrase and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
So it took you a minute.
It did, and you didn't want to be deemed like crazy,
Of course.
So
Oh yeah, back then. I mean, yeah. Oh, yeah,
back
no.
then it's like, honey, you need to see a psychologist. It's
Exactly,
Like, well,
yeah.
I don't need to see it because that realm that I was felt more real than this physical reality. And so throughout but on top of that, my intuition was really fantastic. My intuitive abilities, heightened. I used it to get into a successful business that I did programming. Basically, which I do now.
No pun intended.
Yeah, programming. Isn't that crazy? So yeah, I used it for that. But I was always introspective. I did a lot of research, on NDEs and spirituality and some of the the more popular techniques on connecting. But again, they kind of felt shallow compared to my own experience.
Of course.
So, but that led me to my second near-death experience.
Okay, so when did you die again?
This was in my mid-40s.
Okay, so you've taken a minute
Yes.
before you die again. Okay.
Yes, I
So
processed the information.
so this just really puts you down the path of a deeper seeker.
Yes.
That's what this did for you, essentially. It's like, I want to learn as much as I can about what I just experienced. You went inward, which is beautiful.
Yes.
I think we all should be going inward.
I think so. Well, the outward success, I was successful,
But it's shallow, man.
That's just it. Because once you see that side and it's like, and people go, well, it's the money that makes it shallow. It's really not. It's you that makes it shallow.
Money.
And that's the key.
Before we continue, can we just kind of put a kibosh on that whole money thing?
Please.
Because, this is very, Christian based, that you have to be poor. And also not only Christian based, but Eastern as well, like yogis and Tibetan monks and these kind of things, that you must be poor and desolate to be highly spiritual.
Right.
But to me, and to my understanding, and please, I'd love to hear your thoughts, is if you're going on your own personal journey and you want to meditate in a cave for 30 years and eat rice and porridge, there's nothing wrong with that. That is your path. And many great masters have walked that path. But in the world that we live in today, and again, that's still a very valid path for many people.
Yes.
But in the world we're living today, we need to really share this information with as many people as we can. We need to walk out into the world, really make an effort to change the world. And that doesn't come at a no money scenario. Even, one of my great gurus that I follow is Yogananda. Yogananda was a Swami. He was a yogi and a Swami. And he didn't have money. But without the money that came into his life, he couldn't have done the work that he did.
True.
So you need money. That's a currency of this reality to be able to reach more people, to do more things.
Right.
And just a lot of people are like, oh, if you make money, you're evil. That's a very Christian idea.
True.
So
True.
I'd love to hear what you think and if you can kibosh this idea for
Yes,
people.
please. Well, actually, I was in a deep state meditation I was getting ready to do called Buddha States, one of the courses that we have. And, meditating, you getting in, having abilities to get into the zones of, say, the Buddha or the consciousness of Buddha, not the physical being, but the consciousness of Buddha. And, one of the most beautiful phrases. I wish it was mine, but Buddha basically in that meditative state told me, it's like, suffering, is not a prerequisite of enlightenment.
Right.
And
It's a path.
And I'm going, Buddha?
I mean, you're famous for this, Buddha.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you're famous for this. I'm teaching this course. It's like, what? And it's like, no, it's not. It's a condition of being unenlightened. And I'm going, wow, that's pretty deep. It's really deep. And what he was saying is basically is like, and his path was not, just suffering or letting go of your physical possessions. But basically what he was saying is like, do not reference yourself compared to your physical possessions.
Correct.
Because your physical possessions are limited compared to who you are. It'll never fulfill you because you're comparing yourself to something that has fiat currency or fiat value. And you cannot, again, reference yourself to something that's not real.
Right.
Again, like money. It's just like, like nowadays it's trillions of dollars.
Being printed a day.
Exactly. So there's no value in it.
Really?
So, right? There's no intrinsic value. So you have to, again, equate. So what Buddha was saying, or Buddha's teachings, and many of these individuals who, say, went the poor path, they weren't really poor at all, by the way. If they needed the money, like Yogananda, it would come for them.
I mean, he bought a 13 acres piece of real estate up in Mount Washington in Los Angeles.
Exactly. So it comes when you need it. You don't have to do savings accounts. It just like shows up when it materializes when you need it. So that's the power of, say, abundance. But again, going back to Buddha is basically like, well, you need to separate yourself from all that. Okay? And some people would call it suffering, which is today's Buddhists and Christians, but it's really not. It's about cleansing yourself and understanding your reference of who you are compared to not physical reference points, but again, a higher level of who you are at a very deep level.
In nature is abundant.
Absolutely.
You look at an apple tree, it doesn't just pop out one apple.
Absolutely.
It pops out a lot. But the problem is when you associate yourself with how many apples you have in that tree.
True.
That's the difference.
That's the difference.
Having the abundance out in your backyard, and you can pull an apple whenever you need it. And if you need 4 or 5 apples because I have people coming over, I want to make a pie, you can do that. But my being is not attached to how many apples that tree produces.
That's the point. That's the problem.
That's
you
where
get attached.
People
to
are like, I have the best tree.
Possession.
I have the best tree.
Yes.
How many apples do you have? I have 5 apples more than you do. Like that kind of thing. And that's where people get lost. And by the way, spiritual people constantly fall down that road.
That's true.
Constantly.
That's true.
And I've seen it in every denomination, every walk of life, that yogis, and they will start to, like, I think I need a Rolls Royce. I think I need 5 Rolls Royces. I think I need 5 because that's what, and I'm not going to call out who I'm talking about, but like, the Lord told me I need a private jet. Can you please donate to me because the Lord told me I need a private, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Makes no sense. Like I've told people so many times, like if $100 million was dropped on my doorstep tomorrow, I'd be like, cool, now I can get to work.
Yeah.
Like I'm because after a certain point,
true.
After 10 million, does 100 really change your lifestyle? I mean, really? I'm not saying that we need 10, but you know what I mean? Like at a certain point, what do you need? You need a box to live in.
True.
You need a car to drive around in, maybe some food, some people, physical stuff.
Of course. Well, you don't want your wealth to become a facade of your weaknesses, because that's what it is. However, if you switch that around, your wealth becomes a reflection of who you are. So if you're highly, highly evolved, and you need Rolls Royces or a jet to do your work, there's nothing wrong with that. As long as, again, as you're not defining yourself by that. It's a reflection of your, say, expediency. Because, say, a private jet,
there's different.
You know what I mean?
I completely
in those
understand
kind of
what you mean.
senses.
Yeah.
It makes total sense. So the key overall is your wealth should become a reflection of you, because you are an infinite being, and you have infinite opportunities or infinite availability to whatever that's needed for you. But you don't hoard. You don't compare yourself to go, 'cause I work with a lot of people, and they go, yeah, my yacht is like 20 foot bigger than my friend's yacht.
Oh,
and
Jesus.
It's like, I'm going, okay, yeah, we need some work here.
I mean, yeah, because at the end of the day, when you leave, when you're at the place you were at, no one's looking at the yacht.
No one's looking at the yacht.
No
it's
one's
like what's your frequency? How much what frequency did you resonate while you were in physical form?
It's like they say, you never see a U-Haul attached to a hearse.
True. True. I like that one.
There was another near-death experiencer who said that, Damon.
Yes.
Dan and Brinkley told me that once.
I love Dan.
Dan is amazing. He said that it's one of my first episodes, and I never forgot that. I go, well, you never see a U-Haul attached to a hearse.
He's so funny.
He's wonderful. All right, so you died again. So
Yes.
what happened the second time?
It was a drowning. We were in Belize.
Why do you need to go through this stuff, bro?
Well, the first one kind of awakened me to the possibilities.
But the second one?
The second one, I think, accelerated me. So I look at near-death experiences. And again, the third one is a mastery level. But I looked at a second NDE is kind of like a psychedelic states.
Sure.
It puts you into altered states.
Yep.
It's the most extreme psychedelic state.
I was going to say.
You know what I mean?
It's very flatliners.
Yes. It's like, because you can transcend thousands of layers of your identity.
Sure.
Or thousands of years of like existence here pretty quick. You can go from point A, or point 1 to point, 10,000, in a very short time or no time. You can just literally go from here to there. The key is to stay up there. And that's what the second near death allowed me to do. Is the second near death, it was a drowning. And, we were in Belize, we were in a rafting trip, and, we connected. The guide goes, well, you want to stay interlocked with your feet, otherwise you'll get pulled into other tributaries. Something happened to me where I had to unlock my feet with the other group. So the group went one way, my sons and I went the other way, and I got pulled into a cenote. It's basically a hole in
I know
bottom of the
cenote,
river.
sure.
So I pushed my kids aside, and I got sucked in, and that's where, I was trying to crawl out, but I was in this lava tube. Back then, probably was a lava tube. Now it's filled with water, but the water pressure was so great. I was trying to crawl out, and then at some point you give up. It's like, gosh, and that's when I go, gosh, I'll never see my kids grow up, and it's like, damn, I thought I had a great future and all that. It's like, and then all of a sudden, you see your body I saw my body just float away into the bowels of the earth, and it felt this expansiveness again, and the joy and the beauty, and I could still feel the water, the presence of water. I went through the rock. And then back through the river, and then I ascended into higher realms. This time I didn't go. I went through the tunnel of light, but I graduated through that tunnel of light. And when you graduate, you're never really supposed to come back. But somehow I guess cheated, because I always want to know like what's behind what's behind the curtain.
Little hack, sir.
Yeah.
Little hack, yeah.
And I looked behind it, and I'm going, oh my God, this is so cool.
All right, so let's take it step by step. So you've drowned. Now you're out. Your spirit's gone again. So you're going through that quote unquote tunnel of light. Mm-hmm. Where do you get to? What do you see?
Well, you transcend the tunnel of light, and it's just like it's like a black hole or a void, because it's a space of nothingness.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
And it actually is, that space of nothingness is actually the space of everything possible, because it had to be nothing for you to create or render.
It's a blank slate.
Without judgment.
It's a blank slate.
It's a blank slate, exactly. And it's beautiful up there. But I could feel like, gosh, I have access to all possibilities here. And I had access to all knowledge that ever was, is, and shall be. And I'm going, whoa. It's like a huge, I call it the universal database.
Yeah.
And it's
the cloud.
Yeah, it is.
It's the
and
cloud.
You can have access to it, and anything that you need or want, it's even faster, because there's no time, no space at that level.
And your processor can handle that. Our processor down here cannot.
No, exactly. And so, and it turned into a beautiful blue space, kind of like the deep ocean blue. Mm-hmm. It turned into that, and I'm going, wow, this is so beautiful. And the amount of love at that level is 1,000,000 times greater than what you could handle here. I don't think you could handle that much love here. Your body would just like explode.
Sure.
You know, it's like an orgasmic state. But anything you wanted there, anything you could do, you literally transform into. It's like, oh, I want to go to France. It's like, oh, you're in France. You know, it's like that. So it took a little bit, you know, to understand the concepts. And I don't know how long, according to my wife at the time, I probably was underwater like 8-10 minutes.
So you should be brain dead at that point.
Yeah, I should be brain dead at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, but over there it was like lifetimes, because it's forever.
Yeah,
There's no time. There's no space. And then I blacked out, came back.
So what happened up there? That was it. It was just this kind of space and.
Yeah, well, it felt so beautiful, you know, and just gorgeous, and that's where I got downloaded all the information.
Okay, so that was what I was trying to get.
So basically, it was a connection point.
So you basically hooked up to the cloud, the Akashic cloud, if you will, and were able to download as much information that you needed in this lifetime, because you can't bring it all back with you. But you had access to all of it up there.
I still do have access. I think, you know, I think I went there to get verified, to go, oh, okay, you can have, here's your username and password. You know, they gave me admin level access.
So you have admin level access, but just like the cloud, you can't absorb everything at once, but you can pick and choose what you need and have access to it.
Yes. So it's like you get that connection, or you get that username and password, admin level, you know, and then it blacked out. And then I found myself about 100 yards above river from where I, you know, drowned, which was interesting, because it's like,
how did I get there?
How did I get above river compared to down river? I should be down river somewhere. And it really confused me. And I was like, oh, somebody really loves me up there. It's like literally getting picked up and here you go. It's just a quiet part, you know, of the river. And it's like, wow, this is really nice. And obviously that never leaves you, you know, that existence. But it took me probably about 3-4 years, dark nights of the soul, to figure all that out, because the information that was downloading,
it's overload.
You know what I mean? It is an overload, and it's like you couldn't stop it, because once you're connected to the truth, it just like comes in, and it doesn't stop.
So I've heard this before, where this kind of information's coming in, and you're just trying to process. You're trying to process this while living in this simulation. So you are connecting to a higher level while still trying to maintain a life.
It doesn't work out.
It's very difficult. So that's where this dark night of the soul comes in. But you went through that for about 3 years?
Yes.
So I'm assuming the people around you, colleagues, this did not work out well for you.
No, it didn't.
It was difficult.
Everything was dark, you know, the relationships, you know, that I had with my, you know, partner at the time. It's like, gosh, you start to understand why, you know, you got attracted to that relationship. And, you know, the logistics or the logic of this reality, Alex, it doesn't make sense.
No.
You know, and it's like, gosh, it doesn't make sense compared to the logic that's up there. And it's very pristine. I would call it first principle logic. It works each and every time. It works for everybody the same way. You know, it's just like the laws. It's just like the laws of gravity and electromagnetism.
It's what it is.
It works each and every time for you, and it works, you know, without prejudice. So that's the level of consciousness or rule sets, you know, the physics laws that I was getting used to. And I'm going, damn, this place doesn't make sense at all. Mm-hmm. You know? And then furthermore, I'd get pulled into like deep state meditations, like 2, 3, 4 in the morning. It's like, hey, wake up. And I'm going, what's that voice? Who's that voice? You know, I'd look around, and it's like, it's time to meditate. I go, I'll just do it, you know, when I wake up in the morning. It's only 3. It's like, no, it's time to meditate. And, you know, and I got used to the voice because it wouldn't leave you alone.
You're not going back to sleep?
You know, it's like, no, you need to meditate. It's like, okay.
So who's the voice?
I think it's the same presence that for my first near death, because it sounds that beautiful voice.
So is it that it's essentially, do you feel it's like a spirit guide or something along those lines?
It's be like a collective consciousness. I think that layer where, you know, you always have tribes that you're with, and the higher you go, say like you have, say a couple thousand people that's connected to you, loved ones on the other side, you know, your tribe. then you elevate yourself to the next group, the next level. And then there's like, 10,000 more people. So with each higher, with each level that you go higher and higher, your group gets bigger and bigger. So at that level, it's a collective voice. It's just one singular voice. It's like that mastermind. Nowadays I would call it the mastermind. But that one voice is like, yeah, it's time to meditate. And it was like mystic teachings where it's like, okay, tonight we're going to teach you about this. Tonight we're going to teach you about 1,000 ways to die. And literally I went through 1,000 ways of death. It was painful as hell. 3-4 hours of just dying. It's like you die, you get back up, you die. It's like, why do I have to go through this? And it said, well, so you can learn how to heal people. And I'm going, what? I want to be a computer programmer, sell some program to Google, make my $1 billion and that'd be good. That was the first time I heard about healing. I'm going, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do? It's like, yeah.
So, all right, so now you're going through this dark night of the soul for 3 years. Relationships are being pulled apart. Your life's being pulled apart.
Yes.
You're being trained to do the work you're doing. And when you get out of that dark night of the soul, you finally see light and you get out of it. What's the next step after that?
Well, the next step is I lost everything. I went bankrupt, had my car repossessed, like all those things.
Fun.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
You lose your yacht, all those things that didn't make me
I hate
happy.
it when I lose my yacht. I don't know about you. It's horrible. I've lost 3 already.
Yeah. So, but that was my identity, and I think that was the thing is like, and I remember being, just moving my last box, because we had to move out of this beautiful house, and it's like, oh, so, and you're down in the dumps. It's like, so, and it's like, so what have you lost? Again, the big beautiful voice, and I'm going, what? It's like oh wait, I didn't lose anything. And it showed me like who I really was without that type of definition. And from that point on, I never looked back, Alex. And that's where, I started working on it, people.
So the thing is that, just from my point of view, is like you needed to live that lifestyle and be very successful on a financial standpoint. Yeah. But you were completely identified with the wealth around you. Like the thing we were talking about earlier.
Absolutely.
You needed to lose it all, because that taught you the lesson where now you can walk into a client who has a yacht and go, hey, listen, man, I lost my yacht. And this is how it's coming from a place of being there with certain clients of yours.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you work with all ranges of people, but that is a subset of your client base.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what I do is like, yes, you have all that, but you're still aging like everybody else.
Right.
You still have the same type of relationships. You're still going to die like everybody else, right? You're going to get the same diseases as your parents do and societies. So you're not much different. You're just, again, being more comfortable, being uncomfortable. So with that mindset is like you can change all of them. And that's what I do for a lot of people.
I mean, I worked in Hollywood for so many years, and I knew a lot of celebrities, a lot of people at very high levels. I'm sure you have too in your line of work, Oscar winners and so on. And I did some of the most miserable people I've met, and not all, but many of them I could just see and watch. As a director, I would work with them, or I would sit in the back and I would watch. And sometimes I was invited into their inner circle. And I would see what they were going through. I was like, "Ooh!" It was a learning lesson for me about fame. Yeah, because fame is a whole other drug.
True.
Like we talk about yachts and other things.
That, yeah.
Fame is a whole other drug, and a lot of these TikTok generation kids coming up, and YouTube kids, they got the money, but the fame is what really drives them. And it's when it goes, because they can't see a world where I'm not famous,
right? Kind
of thing. And when that dries up, for whatever reason,
right,
they're gonna crumble.
True.
And it doesn't matter how much money you have.
True. Well, fame and fortune, those are all magnifiers. Having kids, love, and all that. It just shows you the weaknesses that you are, and that's a good thing, by the way, because it says like you go into a level of fame, right, or fortune. And it's like, well, hey, if you want to stay up here and enjoy it, you need to get rid of all this stuff, all the burdens of your life. You need to fix your genetic patterns and all that. Otherwise, you're not going to enjoy the fortune up here. But what most people do, Alex, is like they try to hide. Just like getting into a relationship where, you're getting into a relationship, you start to fall in love, and then the first thing you realize when you fall in love is like all your weaknesses show up. And then what do people do? They go, gosh, I better justify these weaknesses. I better hide these weaknesses. I better
put a mask on.
Yeah, put the mask on. It's Spirit is telling you, it's like, no, if you really want to enjoy that love the way, we've created it for you in purity, you need to let go of the weaknesses that you are. You need to grow from who you are, transition into a new version of who you are. But people don't do that. So people, with fortune, fame, love, kids and everything else, they keep destroying themselves. They keep holding on to their old identities instead of like shedding that old identity and embracing the new.
But Mas, those old identities are much more comfortable, even if they're miserable.
I know. Isn't that crazy?
Even if you're miserable, it's the devil you know.
Exactly.
That's what
so
people's
sad.
mentalities are. It's the devil you know, and you're like, that new thing's very scary. And
yes.
Coming out into the world is scary. And when I started this podcast, I was terrified coming from Hollywood, opening up a spiritual podcast. It was like terrifying. It was like, ooh, this is new. I'm just going to stick where I know. And you've kind of come to those moments in life. But most people just keep recycling. And I could see it at least in my family and kind of those generations, older generations of aunts and uncles and things like that. You could just see
absolutely
the programming playing out again.
And again.
And again. And I was just like, I don't understand. Like, I don't understand. Like, there was a perfect example. I had a relative of mine who lived in the same house for 45 years and was a renter.
Wow.
A renter. And they were, and the owner offered, do you want to do a rent to own? I mean, I want to give this to you. This is essentially your house at this point. Like, you've been here so long, what?
Yeah.
And they never broke from that because there was a program inside of them that told them, no. This is safer. I don't want to deal with being a landlord. I don't want to deal with the roof. I want to be able to just call somebody and the roof will be fixed and things. But they didn't see the long game. They didn't see we know what the benefits are of owning real estate. But it was fascinating to see how, when I found out when they passed, I go, so who's going to get the house? Oh, they've been renting. I go, what? They've been there 40, when I was born, they were there.
That's crazy, right?
It was crazy. But that's how powerful these programs are.
Right. Well, through the programs that we do, as people become exponentially intelligent, like you were saying, they look at their, parents and they look at their, relatives, they get home for, Christmas or holidays and all that. And it's like, gosh, I used to be them. And they see those patterns that they were comfortable with. Yeah. And the cool thing is like, they're not comfortable with them anymore. It's like, I don't like them, but no, wait, that was you. So, you need to honor those individuals, not hate them. But it allows people to really step out of who they are.
It's difficult to maintain relationships like that.
True.
I mean, with close family, you have to come to grips with who they are and meet them where they are. Yeah. But other relationships, especially friends, colleagues,
that all changes.
It really does. As they say, people are in your life for a reason, a season, or life.
Yeah.
And it's so true. Yeah. But it's difficult, isn't it?
It is. It is. The cool thing about all that is, when people start to really, really shift, and I think what you're getting to is it's more comfortable, is people don't know how to rise to the next level, But when you start to awaken, again, become exponentially intelligent, you literally start to automatically rise to the next level. So it's although it's discomfort, the physicalness, it feels so much better for you because you have a path. Most people don't have that next step, that next path to take them to that level. So they go, well, I'd rather just stay where I am. It's not a choice up here. Mm-hmm. It's just a consciousness that they can't say get out of.
And it's subconscious too. Sometimes they don't even realize what's going on.
Your story reminds me of
we'll just call him Rich Man.
Yeah, the rich guy. He's I think he's Iowa. I think so. but he's lived in the same house.
Oh no, you're talking about Warren.
Yeah,
Buffett.
Warren Buffett.
Yeah. Oh no, he hasn't moved.
He hasn't moved.
He lives in a normal house.
Yeah.
Which is probably not the smartest thing in the world to do on a security standpoint alone.
No.
That's it. I know how you're trying to be cool and you're trying to like, hey, I'm down to earth, even though I have 40 or $100 billion.
Yeah, whatever it is.
But at a certain point, security.
Exactly.
I mean, apparently it's not a problem, but.
Yeah, he lives in the same house, drives the same car, and all that stuff.
Drinks Coca-Cola and eats McDonald's.
Yeah. It's like, it's okay, Warren, but what the underlying reason, yeah, you've turned it into maybe something cool, and it's not that cool to me. But the thing is that the underlying reason is not because of what you think it is. The underlying reason is like you can't get away from, because I read people. That's one of the gifts that I've had after the second near death. I read people and get to the cause of why they have it. So like for Warren, it's like his wealth actually comes from his grandmother. Mm-hmm. So he has a very feminine feel to me, a frequency.
Oh, absolutely.
And he's very safe with his grandmother who probably died in that house. So that's the underlying reason. His grandmother basically won't let him go.
Anytime I've ever seen him in an interview, he's never been like this aggressive, and he's a very calm, quiet, just sits down, does his thing. Yeah. He has a very kind of relaxed energy. Yeah. Not
very nurturing
kind of vibe, kind of all that stuff. Yeah. Not the guy who has 120, and I'm sure he's ruthless behind the scenes. To make as much money.
Well, he gets his information from somebody on the other side.
There might
that
be
goes,
that.
Hey, invest in this, invest in that, invest in that. So, you know what I mean? But again, the cause is here. The effect of his life is here, and then he justifies, where he is. But the real reason is because of what's happened here for him.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, and that's that's what I do. Is like people go, gosh, Moss, I can't make money. Or, I can't hold on to a job, or, I get into relationships that destroy me. It's like, well, and then people start to solve for the effect, but you really have to go to the cause of why that happened.
You don't need an aspirin. You need to know why you're in pain.
Yeah, exactly. And
most people just keep popping them pills.
Popping the pills, exactly. I need another relationship. I need another $1 million. I need this. That'll help me. It's like,
if I only got another $1 million.
Oh yes, that's
the great line, isn't it? Like, if I just could get that one extra $1 million, my life would be perfect. If I could just date that one, if I could have that person in my life, my life would be perfect.
Yeah, it's like let's look at the logistics here. Let's look at your algorithms that you're running, because when you get that person, it's then the next thing that's gonna, pop up for you.
And that's the thing that, again, working in Hollywood so much of people's, goal is to be, you can win an Oscar. And I've spoken to people who run Oscars. Like, so how is it? And they're like, like now what? Like they actually get into a depression after they win an Oscar, because they have no idea what else to do. It's like that's the pinnacle. Like, okay, I've won the Super Bowl. Not win it again. Like, what am I, like, that's the only, like, and if you've attached yourself so much to that goal, when you get there, you haven't enjoyed the journey.
True. Yeah, I address that actually with people. And the reason is because they've sacrificed forward rather than backwards. So when you sacrifice forward, you start to let go of your true essence of who you are to get what you want in the future. Hence sacrificing forward. You lose your identity. This is where people become successful and their spouse goes, I don't know who you are anymore.
The ends justify the means.
Yeah, exactly. And then extreme levels, people, we can get into people selling their soul and all that stuff, but
the Pablo Escobars of the world.
Yeah. We won't get into that. But people who just sacrifice more because they go, if I get this, treasure, whether it's an Oscar, $1 million, that whoever, that person that turns them on, I'll be perfect. But they've sold so much of themselves, let go of so much of themselves. When they get there, it's like, damn, the journey, was not worth, it wasn't worth the object.
That's one of my favorite shows of all time is Breaking Bad.
Oh, yeah. I've seen a couple of them.
It's such a brilliant show because it's exactly what you're talking about. A science teacher, high school science teacher, has cancer, and he needs to make money at the beginning to help his family.
Right.
And in the course of those 5 seasons, he loses himself the entire way. Everything that made him who he was, he gets lost.
Yep.
But the main issue is not that he got lost, but by the time he gets to, because at a certain point, it's like he had hundreds of millions of dollars. He was the most powerful meth dealer on the planet, or whatever it was. His name rung fear across the world, in the drug cartels and stuff like that. Oh, it's an amazing movie, amazing show. But he actually got lost so far that he actually enjoyed being the guy he turned into. And he kept saying to himself in his programming of the character, I'm doing this for you. I'm doing this for you, for my family. I'm doing this for my family. And the family's like, no, this is not about us anymore. This is about you and your ego. And until he loses, where he goes towards the end, he loses it all. It is such a beautiful explanation of what you're talking about. Extreme, to say the least.
Well, Hollywood.
Extreme, but you lose yourself for the goal. And trust me, being in Hollywood for so many years, especially when I was a young man, if certain opportunities would have presented themselves in my 20s,
absolutely,
I almost made a $20 million movie for the Mafia. There's a whole book about it. It was a horrible, horrible experience. And that was, I think, the thing that broke my thing. I'm like, probably shouldn't go down that far of a road. But I was taught that lesson because I would have self-destructed, no question.
Exactly. So there's a safety mechanism. But Alec, what you want to really do is, you can still make the $1 million or whatever that you need. But the deal is that what kind of person do you have to resonate at? What frequency do you have to be to hold on to, say, value at that level, $1 million? Yeah. So that's where you sacrifice backwards. You let go of all your distortions. You let go of, your genetic patterns and so on. So with each moment, you're getting closer and closer, more expansive to who you really are, to somebody that actually deserves or can maintain a frequency of holding on to millions of dollars, or a beautiful spouse, or whatever it is.
A healthy relationship.
Exactly. So when you attach, and when you finally get that prize that you're seeking, you go, oh my God, it's an icon of where you are in, say, frequencies, and you can maintain that level of frequency.
It's funny that I've, as this show has gone on, it's been a successful show. Yeah. And the more successful the show gets, I find myself pulling back away from its success. Meaning, like, I don't want fame, I don't want the light. I'm pulling back from it in a good way, in a healthy way.
Of course.
As opposed to if I was in my 20s, I would be leading with it. I would be attached to it. I would be telling everybody who walked, like, hey, I got a YouTube show. It's got this. Now there's people in my life who have no idea what I do.
Oh, that's so cool.
I just don't talk about it. Yeah. It's not like, what do you do? I'm like, media.
Yeah.
I work in film. Oh, cool. That's it. But I found myself pulling away from it more at this stage in my life because I don't identify.
Yeah.
I identify with the mission of what I do, but not the all the other trappings, if you will. I try not to, at least.
Well, maybe we could work on that, Alex.
Well, my kids keep me grounded.
Yes. So, because sometimes, people like you've got a beautiful soul.
Thank you.
And it's like, gosh, if I go down that path, I'm going to lose my identity. But again, we have logistics on where you can, expand on who you are and be successful and not lose that identity. And that's really the key.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's probably the programming of what I saw in Hollywood.
I think that's what it is.
It's exactly what it is. Yeah. I've seen so many people lose themselves going down the road and diving into it.
Exactly.
That I'm very hesitant to walk.
That's what I see.
I've talked to people before. I tell them, like, if I could do this behind the scenes and no one sees my face, I would do it. But unfortunately, I've agreed to do this the way I'm doing it.
Absolutely.
And I enjoy it. I enjoyed it, but it's not. I don't wear my merch on the street. Let's just put it that way.
True.
But it's just a fascinating thing. All right. So before we finish, you died the third time. What happened at the mastery level?
Oh, the third time was about a year and a half ago. I was in Peru.
Geez.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a mastery level. So the first near-death allowed me or opened me up to possibilities of what could be out there.
Okay.
Understanding, again, space and time. The second near-death was a learning course basically. It's like, okay, this is how you can stay youthful, be vibrant, be successful and all that. The logistics of how this reality works, literally the physics of this, how this reality works. And then, gosh, I've been doing this for 13, 14 years, hundreds of thousands of client sessions. So the third one was like a mastery level. It's like, okay, you've achieved it. So it's like really turning into or morphing into like a physical being that could actually hold on to that higher frequency. Because at those higher frequencies, if your body is not complete or solid enough, you'd start to burn out.
Oh yeah, your nervous system can't handle it.
Yes. So that's what I actually went through. That third near death is where I was in Peru, and I probably had COVID, which probably accelerated everything, and my body stopped. Literally, and I was in the hospital, which is a terrible thing. You never want to be in a hospital in Peru. So say it's not the best health care, So I got shifted from one hospital to another because they didn't have the right thing, and it was the roads there were so bumpy, and it was like, anyway, I'm lying in the hallway because they have to get a room prepared for me.
Yeah, and you're dying,
and I'm dying, and my son is there, and it's just like there's just pure black. And then all of a sudden I see this light, and I just hover over my body, and I'm looking at my son, holding me down. It's really, really sad. And I could just see the anguish in his face. And then I just disappeared. And I went into this beautiful abyss. And it's just like no time and no space. And
so you're back to the same place.
Yeah. And this time it was just it was like I was sitting on the edge of the universe, and looking at time and space. Mm-hmm. And I'm going, whoa, that's cool. And it was just quiet.
And that was it?
And that was it. It was just like everything was just so peaceful. But to be at that level of no time and no space and be conscious, it's like I can't even describe it.
So it almost sounds like you've reached multiple levels of the other side. Yes. Essentially, like there are levels of where people go or souls go.
This is where you don't have an identity, because people talk about their spirit. Like the first near death allowed me to understand that we're spirit, but your identity of spirit still has physical form. The second one allowed me to go, oh, I don't even have physical form, because in pure spirit you don't have a physical identity. You don't have a human identity. The third one allowed me to maintain that space of no identity at all. I mean, there's just no judgment, no nothing. The way we conceive, there's no reference points at that level, but you can maintain your consciousness. So, because in this reality, for you to maintain your consciousness or your sanity, you'd need reference points of who you are. Like a quiet room. Have you ever been in? There's in Minnesota.
Oh, like a quiet room. This is the quietest room I've been in. It's pretty quiet when no one else.
It's pretty quiet.
When the AC is off.
Yeah.
This is soundproof. Pretty good.
But when you have no reference points, like the sounds get absorbed, people go crazy.
Yeah. There's that one room that it's the quietest room in the world, and you walk in there.
It's in Minnesota. Actually.
Yeah, and how many minutes?
Yeah, it can only exist there in I think the longest is 3-4 minutes, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, if not, you lose.
It's not that
you lose your mind.
You lose your mind. So
because your mind's trying to grab onto something.
Exactly, because you always need reference points of who you are. So in a state where there's no reference points and you can maintain your sanity and just expand, is quite an amazing feat. And that consciousness is. It took me about a year. It revamped my heart. And the way I died, I didn't have enough minerals.
Yeah, you were mineral deficient, and I'm sure the altitude didn't help.
No, I was so my body stopped. I didn't have a heart attack. Literally, my whole muscular system just stopped.
Yeah, because if that makes up. Yeah, you needed some Gatorade or at least some electrolytes.
Well,
coconut water.
I had but the thing is, I had drank so much of that during the day. I just wasn't processing it. So I don't know what it was. Something was going on. But when I came back, my heart, my circulatory system, everything got revamped. It took me about a year, but I'm healthier now than ever before. You know, and I certainly don't look my age. So.
Right? No, you don't. Yeah, no, you don't. Especially after I fix you in post.
Thank you.
So I have to ask you, man. You've gone through all of these different experiences. You've seen the other side. You've peeked behind the curtain.
Yes.
You've seen the code.
Yes.
How do you deal with this every day? This existence with knowing what you know.
Well, I see it as an opportunity for humanity to expand upon itself. It's kind of like right now, humanity is at a teenage level where it's starting to learn, because, you know, the problems of the world isn't just today's problem. It's an accumulation of what we didn't learn in the past. Right. So as a teenage level, human consciousness, again, human species, I see it, again, teenager level. So it has an opportunity to go down the path of its predecessor or go towards another direction. Yeah. And I see that as more and more people awaken, and you know, more and more people are awakening.
Oh yeah.
You know, with shows like yours, you know, what I'm doing, you know, people hear my name or they go, gosh, you know, that resonates true for me. So more people are awakening. There's that saying, the meek shall inherit the earth. Right? So that's actually, I think, what's happening. The meek inherits the earth. What that means is that, you know, you don't have politicians, you don't have the state or whoever controlling you. You are supposed to come into your own autonomous, say, nature of who you are. And that's really key. And that's what's happening today. Now, those people who want to become autonomous, who want to master this reality, it's going to be a beautiful state. Those who don't, well, let's just say their software version that they're running not going to be upgraded. You know, that version is not going to be supported anymore.
It's DOS.
It's DOS. Yeah. Yeah, it's DOS, and it's like, okay, so they just die off, unfortunately, because they didn't wake up. But that's okay.
So what do you see, like right now we're in such a turmoil. As we speak, there's an election going on today. Today is the election day for the U.S. as we're speaking. This will air after this, of course.
Yeah.
But there seems to be a lot of stuff happening in the world.
Oh, absolutely.
Where do you see humanity in these next few years from your point of view?
Yeah. Well, you know, at an individual level, this is what happens. I see it as a, you know, societal level, but at a personal level, people go through the same process society is going right now. So with the work that I do, people go through what I call detox. They let go of all their bullshit that they can't hold on to, because consciousness is awakening. Consciousness is becoming more and more transparent. Time and space is becoming more efficient. That's the bottom line. Time and space is becoming more and more efficient. So we can't hide our lives. We can't hide, you know, the heaviness or the distortions that we needed in the past. So that's letting go. And because of that, there's a lot of awakening. Our financial institutions, religious institutions, whatever lie that we have at any level, those things are going, hey, do you need to carry this into the next level? Because you can't. So all that stuff is shedding away again. So with that being said, there are people that are going to go, you know what? I really didn't need that stuff. You know, I want to let go of my parents' patterns and all that. You know, I want to I want to try a new financial system that's, you know, beneficial, that has real value.
Stop it.
And that's what's happening. So it's like, yes, so that opportunity is showing up. For. And then again, so the great divide, before it was race and skin color and religions and, you know, sex nowadays, you know, it's like, so we went through all that. No, the great divide is, are you at a certain level of frequency or are you not? And that's the great divide.
And there seems to be a battle of that right now. The old systems and the new systems.
Old systems. Yeah.
And I've said this so many times on the show that the old systems are crumbling in every aspect of life. From religion, from money to healthcare to food to Hollywood to all of it. It's all, you could literally see the cracks.
Yes, because they had the wrong foundation.
And they did what they needed to do for the time that they served humanity.
Absolutely.
And they needed, we needed those things, you know, at a certain time in humanity's existence. But now it's kind of like, okay, we can drive electric cars, but the horse and buggy, we got to go back to the horse and buggy.
Yeah.
You know, or just riding horses, or just walking everywhere. Like,
yeah. Well, we don't, again, people go, well, technology is bad or AI is bad and so on. I actually trained, AI to be literally sentient, where it comes back with some really logical plans, which is really, really cool. So it's how we use technology, because we're the ones that are destructive forces, and we reflect upon our financial systems, our religious systems, our technology. We're the ones that create the destruction, not the object. And we always limit or control or put down laws. Like nowadays, we have AI, right? It's like, well, we need more laws. It's like, no, we need to change our consciousness of who we are, because that's just an extension of who we are, right? Anything that we do is an extension of who we are. So we need to reflect back, and that's what's happening in today's society. So there's a lot of chaos going on. That chaos is really good. The question is, are we going to hold on to our chaos and go, yep, like you said, are we going to be more comfortable holding on to that, bullshit? Or are we going to go, okay, let's let it go and try a new world? So that's where we are. I see it as a brave new world coming out. So it's beautiful opportunities for everybody.
Beautifully said, sir.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to ask you a few questions, ask all my guests.
Yes.
What is your definition of living a fulfilled life?
Living a fulfilled life is being as closely connected to your limitless self. So you have a time-bound self, you have a limitless self. The closer you are with less filters, that's a fulfilled life, because anything that you do would become a reflection of that and becomes really, truly fulfilling. So it's closer to your timeless self of who you are.
If you had a chance to go back in time and speak to little Moss, what advice would you give him?
I do that already. I go back and heal that younger version of me. So as you heal that younger version, the physical version comes in. Yeah. So it's like, gosh, I really love you.
You're good enough.
You're good enough.
Yeah.
You're beautiful.
How do you define God or source?
Yes. So definition is basically, my definition of God or pure source is the intelligence that created this reality, and the physics principles. If you follow that physics, the science, not religions or anything like that, but if you follow the science of trillions of years of evolution, that would be that intelligence that I would define God.
What is love?
Love is, it sounds kind of strange, it's basically an efficiency factor. Again, love is a connection to how close you are. So it's a reference point on how close you are to your purest possible version of who you could be at that moment. The closer you are, or the closer you live into, say, physical existence in the present moment, the love, you feel immense joy and love. So you become the observer of your physical form. So the more you can do that, rather than the flip. Most people see their physical form, and then some people go, well, there's a spirit out there. I don't even know what that is. But if you can see yourself from, again, a spiritual aspect of who you are, looking upon your physical form, you start to create more love. The way you do that is create more efficiencies of who you are by letting go of those filters.
And what is the ultimate purpose of life?
The ultimate purpose of life is about understanding space and time, or the multidimensional space that is created here. Again, the programming, so you can render yourself here in physical form with all the possibilities of being a limitless being. So again, at a spirit level, you're limitless, you're all powerful. How do you render that each moment at a time and still realize it? So basically, walking here on physical earth, on physical form, through your spiritual eyes, experiencing that.
And where can people find out more about you and the amazing work you're doing in the world?
They can go to the xicode.com, thexicode.com. They can also go to my YouTube channel, Masati on Sunday. There's a lot of free information there.
Very cool. And do you have any parting messages for the audience?
Yes. So you are perfect where you are, as long as you become present. As long as you're really, really present of who you are, you can start your journey anywhere. You don't have to wait for anything. You can start in the moment, understanding who you are. And once you understand who you are, you can clean up quite fast. You don't have to take decades or even lifetimes. You can do it rather fast.
Mas, it's been such a pleasure meeting you, man. I'm so glad we got to do this in person.
Yes.
Today, the energy was so much different than it would have been on Zoom.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate you and everything you're doing to awaken the planet, my friend.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You as well, my friend.
Thanks for watching. Click on one of the videos below to continue your journey, and don't forget to subscribe.